you want to reach your fullest potential, if you want to deliver the value that only you uniquely can deliver to the world, there's no better place to begin than the center of calmness. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Center of Calmness, where we take you from stress to ever more successful than potentially you've ever seen before. Tonight, we are super blessed to welcome Erica Lynn. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. How are things, if I may ask, in the Detroit area where you're from?
Things are they're looking up. A lot of the businesses have opened up, but because of social distancing, there's not a lot of people, in the restaurant, or you will see like a fake doll at a table replacing where people would be. So there's every other booth, and the majority of people, instead of going into corporate America, they're working from home. And so we still have a lot of people working from home. And I believe like them working from home is kind of driving them a little stir crazy a little bit, because you're at home all day. And so they don't really like when you get that time off, then you're supposed to get up. I don't care if you just walk to the mailbox, but go somewhere, get out of the house so that you're not just cooped up in the four walls every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here in Houston, we've done some work from home scenarios and other things. And like you say, the economy seems to be recovering. And I know that I'm getting stuck in traffic a lot more each day than I used to. But still, I think although those signs are positive, we've got a long ways to go before we can say we're truly recovered from the economic impact of COVID. And because of that, of course, the stress level has really never been higher than what I've seen anyway. So that leads to your story, where you've kind of been through a lot, right?
Yes, I have.
I wonder if you might just take us through a couple of the high points of your journey where you had the biggest shifts, the biggest epiphanies that lead you to the offerings that you provide and the coaching you provide today.
Okay, sure, no problem. Well, as he said, I'm Erica Lynn, and who I am now is definitely who I was not back then. So for me, my journey started when I was a young girl. When I was younger, my mom and my dad, they would argue and fight all the time. So it was kind of pretty like toxic environment, all the yelling and screaming, and they would separate and he would come back, So one day I come home from school and he had moved out completely, but this time he wasn't coming back. And that totally devastated me, because I wanted what all little girls are supposed to have: their dad playing a big part in their life, taking them on their first date, showing them how a man is supposed to treat you, pulling out the chair for you at the dinner table, putting your coat on, and just teaching you like how the conversation is supposed to go between you and the opposite sex. But because I didn't have that, I was always searching for that love, but I looked for it in all the wrong places. If you told me I was beautiful, then I'm like, oh, he liked me, or oh, he loved me. And so that had me gravitating to men that I probably shouldn't have gravitated to. But we had a neighbor that lived down the street from us, and my mom would say, go and wash his dishes. He'll help you, On one particular day, I asked him to take me to the store so I can get some stuff for dinner for my mom. And I remember when we were coming out of the store, I went to get in the back seat. And he says, no, I want you to sit up front with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Well, anyway, I sat up front and I sat as closest to the door as I could. And he says, well, why are you sitting so far? I'm like, because I want to look out of the window. He says, no, that's too far. And he reached over and he grabbed me and he gently pulled me closest to him as he could. And back then, there was no center consoles on the car. So there was just one long front seat. And I was 13 years old at the time. And so I just remember sitting there squeezing my arms and my body just as tight as I could, like I was a fortress, like I could just block anything that come my way. Well, that didn't happen, of course. He began touching me inappropriately and doing things that he wasn't supposed to do. And so that really kind of like devastated me in my mind. It just kind of sent me for like a whirlwind. And I remember when we got home, I didn't tell anybody. I just gave her, the groceries, but I began running. I started running away. I started partying. I started drinking. I was smoking. I became very promiscuous. But I just remember always running. And I ran through life. Everything after that through life, I ran. You know, at 17, I became a stripper. I ran through that. After that, I had my first child at 18, and I got married, and I was in a 10-year abusive marriage with their father. And we went on to have 3 wonderful children. But I just remember running through that marriage, you know, through the abuse, through the toxicity, and just keep moving and moving. Like when things just get so bad that I can't take it, I just keep running, kept running. And I just never totally fixed everything. So for me, in that first part with the marriage, the defining moment for me was I remember turning 28 years old. And that morning I woke up and I remember staring at the ceiling, and it was almost like a light bulb went on. And it was like, if you're going to change your life, then you have to be the one to change it. You have to take a stand today. And so my husband at the time, my ex-husband, come home from work, and he set the car keys on top of the dresser. And then he went off to do something else. And then he come back and he was looking for the car keys, and we couldn't find them. So we started looking everywhere for the car keys, and we couldn't find these car keys. So then that's when the yelling and the name calling and all the downgrading came. And I was like, well, I don't care what you're going to do. You're going to figure out how you're going to get to work on your own. That is not my problem. And then it just got extremely quiet. So beware when it gets extremely quiet. Something said, go outside. And I remember going outside, and my car was no longer in the driveway. I said, oh, how did my car get out of the driveway onto the street? And as the closer I walked to my car, my complete stern column was busted up all over the front seat of my car. And it was a screwdriver sticking out of where the keys supposed to go. And I stood there and I started jumping up and down, screaming like a fool. I was like, I can't tell you. I was just lost my complete mind. I can't tell you the words that I said, but they weren't great words. And then I just remember just releasing all of the 10 years of frustration and abuse and everything that was there. I just yelled out and I just screamed and I cried. And finally, I just said, I want a divorce. I want a divorce. This is it. I can't do this anymore. I said, no more stupid decisions. The things that you do, they cost me and the kids, and we pay big. So we have to pay because of the things that you don't think through. And he says, no, we can't have a divorce. He took me in the house. He sat me down, and for 4 hours, he talked to me. He poked me in my forehead like I was a dog, telling me, oh, I love you. You can't go nowhere. Oh, we're going to be here. No, you can't go nowhere, but I love you. And after 4 hours, I said, are you done? And he said, yes. Are we going to stay together? And I remember wiping my tears. And I said, hell no, get the F out.
Wow.
So for me, I stopped running that day. That day I stopped running. I decided to make a change in my life. I decided that if my kids were going to have any type of life, it was up to me to make sure that they have the rest of their life to be or do whatever they want to do in life.
Wow, what a defining moment, and the key shift, right, where rather than just reacting or actually absorbing, right, all of that the negative energy and all of the results from that negative energy, they actually turned to face it, and as you said, for the very first time, such a pivotal moment. And then what happened next?
Well, after I took my power back, I just went on with life, trying to raise the kids the best I can, being a single mom, not having a job paying me a lot of money. So just struggling on welfare, getting food stamps, handouts, whatever it was that I could do to survive. And finally, at 35 years old, I decided to go back to college. I said, okay, great. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get my life together. For sure, I'm going to get a job that's going to pay me more than $10 an hour. I'm going to make it. Do you know when I graduated from college and land my dream job? So I would land my dream job during the day, and I'm working at the hospital at night. I totally hit rock bottom. I became suicidal. I wanted to give it all up. There was nothing else left in me. I cried every day for 1 year. I would go to work, and in the morning, from 8 in the morning till 11 o'clock every single day, I would sit in my cubicle with my back turned towards my coworkers, and I would cry every single day. I found myself dropping deeper and deeper to a depression that I wasn't going to be able to come back from. I remember getting ready to go to Taiwan to see my daughter, and the work has slowed up at the second job. So I only had the first job. I still had the second job, but there was no work at that time. And then all this new furniture, living alone, finally, nobody was here. By the second day of coming straight home from work, I was sitting in a rocking chair. By this time, I'm rocking back and forth. And my depression was just so low. I was just like, I can't do it. I was just going to give it all up. I was just going to end my life and just let it go. And let me tell you how God worked. The phone rang, and it was a friend of mine said, I'm in town. Can I come and see you? And this friend I hadn't seen in over a year or 2 years. And I was like, yeah. And so it was a short visit. But from that visit is when he noticed that I was not the same person that I have always been. And that was the beginning of my start of my journey of my rebuilding process. But that low point that I hit, I wouldn't wish that on nobody. However, I do understand that a lot of people go through depression. A lot of people drop so low. A lot of people they do things that I did. I would hide for like 5 days. So when I come out, this is who you saw, the fake, the mask, the bubbly Erica. And then I would go in the house and hide for 5 days, lay around, not cook, not clean, whatever. And then I would come back out, take my shower, put my makeup on, and you would never know anything was wrong with me because I would put my mask on just to survive through life. So when I find that people that experience depression and experience those things, it's because we've never healed from the things that happened in our past. So I never healed those things, right? So my foundation, my core, it was broken. It was cracked. It was all jacked up. And so when you have a broken foundation, as like a house, when your foundation of your house is cracked and it's not, and it's not solid, then you start adding furniture and people and things all in your house. Then your foundation begins to crack and fall apart. And then your house tumbles or leans on one side. So that's the same with our inner bodies. That's the same with our core. If you never fix the issues that you had and you add husband and wife and kids and jobs and all of these things in life, then your foundation can no longer hold them. And then you just hit rock bottom.
That's interesting how you put that. I think that's a very illustrative example, because I would say that most of the folks out there would call that point where you felt you were at your lowest to actually be the pinnacle of achievement for the moment, right? You had made it through college, you'd gotten your dream job, as you said, and you still had an additional supportive income after that, which a lot of folks, especially these days, would really go for that. But yet, like you said, the foundation was still not healed from the past, right? And all that, especially with all that additional stress. Now you're having to deal with all of that at once, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it wasn't easy. It was not easy. It was very hard to look in the mirror and see the person that you see now. This is who I'm looking in the mirror. And I'm saying, why am I not enough? Why am I not happy? Why don't I feel beautiful? Why am I allowing men to mistreat me? Why am I allowing some of the things to happen in my life? And those are signs of a broken individual. Those are signs that people who need to fix issues in their life, because what we do, and we all do it, we take things that happen to us, traumas, experiences, car accidents, and we throw them in the back of our subconscious. And you just forget about them. And then one day they show up, and when they show up bigger than they did when they first happened.
Absolutely. The subconscious had been working on those things the whole time and continuing to amplify and grow them, even though the truth of the matter is that the event itself is in the past, right? But the reality of the impact is even bigger in the present. So you got the divine call from your friend or contact, and then you began a shifting process. And what did that process look like for you?
Well, I had to go through healing with my father. So he came back into my life, and he began loving on me and pouring into me. And we spent like the last 3 years of his life together. See, by this time I had got married a second time when my dad came back, right? And my second husband but I didn't have I was still like running, into bad things. I just hadn't stood up for myself at that point. And I just remember kicking my ex-husband out of the house. I said, it's it, I can't do this. And we didn't even marry for a year. It wasn't even a year before I kicked him out. And my dad had a heart attack and stroke. And And my stepmom called and she says, you know, your dad's in the hospital. So I remember calling my ex-husband. I had just kicked him out the day before. And I go, my dad's in the hospital. Can you meet me at the hospital? So he met me at the hospital and we all like loved on him. And then he went his way. I went my way. So 2 days later, I went back to the hospital and I said, Dad, I said, are you okay? I said, if I tell you some news, you're not going to die on me, are you? And he's like, no, I see it. I want a divorce, Daddy. I don't like that fool. I just want to get out of this. And I said, I don't know what to do. And he said, well, Erica, you guys were just here 2 days ago loving on each other. I said, I know, but that was fake because I didn't want you to be disappointed in me. I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want, you know, to see your little girl just steady making bad decisions. And so that moment was so defining because my father began loving on me and pouring into me and talking to me and just instilling those things that I looked for in the beginning. And that day I pulled those divorce papers out of my pocket and I signed those divorce papers before I left the hospital and I popped them in the mail. And that was the start of my new beginning. That was part of my new beginning, you know, him pouring into me. Then there was another man that came into my life, my pastor. I just found myself walking into this church and I seen this young man that had on gym shoes and a jogging suit, and he got on stage and the things that came out of his mouth I just cried and cried. It was almost like I was purifying myself. And I remember meeting him and I said, can I tell you something about me? And he said, sure. I said, I've been crying every day for a year. He says, do you know why you were crying? I said, no. And then he gave me some scriptures, gave me his cell phone number. And from that point on, he began walking with me, praying with me, talking with me. That was my first experience having love from an opposite sex that didn't want anything from me, that didn't find me attractive, that did not like anything about me other than showing me how to be a woman of God. And that helped change, right? And then the person that I told you that called, he was a very big part of also showing me love and teaching me and guiding me. He started, I was crying for like 6 months going through my process. It was like, when you get a company, this is how you got to treat your employees. When you do this, so low key, I didn't even know that he was instilling in me how to start a business, how to run a company, how to run a huge company, how to hire employees, how to, like, all this time I'm crying, but he's teaching me. And so it's going in my subconscious because I couldn't retain any more information. And so after I went through my healing process and I did some talking with the ex-husband too, I got to a point where one day I was like, yes, oh my God. Because before I was like, oh my God. And he was like, I cannot wait till you get back to the person that I know you are. And then one day I just showed up as this person because I did all the healing work. I did all the dirty work. I did everything. And then he says, so now what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a transformational coach. I want to write a book and I want to do a podcast. And he says, well, do it then. And I was like, and because I'm stubborn, I felt like that was a challenge. I was like, okay. And I jumped out there. I jumped out there and I launched all 4. And I thank God that I launched all 4 because I was able to go through the process. And now I see how many lives that I touched by being authentic and actually sharing my story, sharing the things that I went through, because it helps people to know that somebody else went through what you're going through. And if they can come out of it, then so can you.
Absolutely. And there's so many that need that motivational message, right? To hit their subconscious, even if they can't receive it right then, to take your example. And it could be years later when they realize, wow, I could make the same shift that Erica made. That's super awesome. And I'm sure you're touching many, many lives with your story and the healing process. And then, as I understand it, you have several resources available for folks as well, right? You have a book. Maybe we could talk about that for a little bit as far as the kind of a first step for folks to begin working with you.
Absolutely. Well, the book is called The 7 Techniques of Healing: How I Overcame Abuse to Live My Authentic Life. And so not only does the book share with you some of the stories and some of the experiences that I went through, but it also is a guide to help you go through what you're going through or come out of what you're going through. So it asks you very intrusive questions. And it makes you think. And then I also give you techniques that you can utilize as you go through the book that's going to help you walk through the process. And I always have to say, when this book asks you questions, if you lie in the book, you're not lying to me. You're just lying to yourself. And so if you want to come out on the other side of things, happy, whole, and healed, you gotta be willing to do what is tough. See, something that might be tough right now, it's gonna be a lot easier later. So I know you've heard your parents say that. I know you've heard plenty of people say that you have to do the hard work in the beginning so that it can be easier later. Just like with retirement, right? You got to work hard and save your money so that when you get to that retirement age, you can sit back and realize. That's the same with healing. You got to deal with the tough stuff. And then one of the things that I'll share with everybody, it is so important to get a support system. That means your auntie, your mama, your sister, your cousin, your therapist, your counselor, your coach, whomever, DK, myself, whomever it is, we are willing to walk with you. And that is why we came up with these programs to help you heal and come out on the other side whole and happy. So that is why I wrote the 7 techniques of healing, so that it gives you a tool to use to help you identify what is the process that you have to go through or who you're going to need to help you walk with you.
Absolutely. I think that's a critical point there. If you have the right coach, like you said, the right support system, whether it's Erica, whether it's me or any of the other folks, some of which have been here at the Center of Calmness, there's a lot of support out there, and there's no excuse or no reason why anyone would need to stay stuck in a situation that doesn't serve them and doesn't allow them to reach their fullest potential. So Erica, I really want to thank you for joining us today. And I wanted to put a banner up here showing your contact information for folks that may want to reach out to you for further support and to gain access to your book and so on and so forth. So your website that you're interested in having folks go to is ericalynnspeaks.com. So that's ERICALYNN speaks with an S.com. Erica, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And as I said before, and if somebody say that they don't want to read the book, they want some one-on-one, they can always go to ericalynnspeaksmembership.com and put their name on the list for the monthly group coaching program. This way you're in a group with a whole bunch of like-minded individuals, and we're going to help you show up and show out and play big in your life. We're going to help you go from stuck to unstuck so that you can achieve all the goals that we know that you can achieve. So my job is to help you help yourself.
That's awesome. So that's ericalynnspeaksmembership.com.
Yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate that you made that offer and invitation to the audience to join you. And it's such a benefit. I personally experienced the advantage of having like-minded, like-intentioned people around you in a group where their stories inspire you, and then you share your own stories, and that inspires others as well. It's a super powerful and a very amplifying experience. So, Erica, thank you again. And for the Center of Calmness, I'm DK Warner.